Good afternoon. Happy holidays. I'm sure you're counting the hours down to our upcoming winter break. Hope everyone's having a good day. I wanted to send this video out to give you some updates and information regarding our plans and interventions for our students who are really struggling academically. I recognize that the timing is not good. However, we wanted to get this information out to you just prior to the break, as there are some things we'll be doing over the break to set up the interventions to be put into place when we come back on January 4th. As I mentioned after our faculty workshop with Dr. Marchese just about 2 weeks ago, there's been a group of about a dozen of us meeting quite regularly over the past 3 weeks to look at the issue with students that are struggling, to determine what can be done to help support not only you as classroom teachers, but also those students, and ideally guide and support the students to a successful end of the school year. So I'll be sharing some of that information with you today. Again, recognizing that the timing is less than optimal, we wanted you to have this information prior to going home for the holiday break. A few quick reminders before we move into what those plans and interventions are. As always, our purpose continues to be to create the best conditions for learning. We recognize that there are many, many more conditions that are out of our control this year, and frankly, also out of the control of our students. So we need to look at doing things differently in order to support those kids. We will continue to ask ourselves the four guiding questions. What do we want our students to know? How are we going to know if they learned it? What are we going to do about those students who are not learning it? And what are we going to do about those students who already know it? The focus and purpose of this video today is to look at question number 3. What are we going to do with those students who don't know it? So first and foremost, why? Why should we be doing this when a lot of time and effort has gone into creating courses, digitizing our courses, and creating an opportunity for our kids to be successful? Well, first and foremost, the data is telling us that students are not being as successful as they have been in previous years. We looked at the DNF report from the end of the first marking period. We looked at the failure report from the end of the first marking period. And it's safe to say there is a significant difference between the number of kids who were not successful in the past and the number of students who are not successful during the start of the 2020 school year. So we're dealing with quite a large problem. In order for students to continue to engage in their learning or even start engaging in their learning, we wanted to give them an opportunity to achieve success by the end of the school year. A lot of students have had a poor academic start to the year. What can we do to help reverse that and put them in a position where they will engage in their learning and be more successful? And finally, we all know this. Our students are facing unprecedented conditions. There's not nearly the access to support that they have when those students are in school. If a student isn't paying attention, we can gain some proximity, tap a kid on the shoulder, and get them to pay attention. If they're not doing well in our class, we have a number of different ways that we can interact with them during and outside of class that are not available to us now. And I think it's also very, very safe to say that more people than ever before are dealing with mental health issues. We know with our students, those mental health issues are going to interrupt and interfere with their ability to learn. So what are we going to do about this? What kind of options do we have? Well, we could take the Homer Simpson approach. We could cross our fingers and say, oh my gosh, I just hope these kids turn it around. And I'll be the first to be 100% honest with you that for a long time, that's kind of what I was hoping. We'll look at the numbers next week and maybe kids will be doing better. Maybe more kids will log into Zoom. Recognizing that is not happening, and it's very, very possible that kids will continue, and maybe more kids will not continue to perform academically like they think we should be. We need to put a plan together. So I'm going to outline for you 3 things that we're going to do. I'm going to introduce those to you so you'll have an opportunity to know what they are, kind of absorb them and think about them a little bit. We'll put some of them into play, so to speak, on January 4th when we come back. On January 6th, we have a faculty workshop. We'll go into more detail on the full plan, and then we will continue to move forward from there. So first and foremost might be something that's coming somewhat out of left field to you, but we are going to establish a floor grade or a basement grade of 50% retroactive to the first marking period. We will continue that for the remainder of the year. Why would we do something like that? First of all, a 0 eliminates, putting the floor at a 50 eliminates the impact of a 0 on an overall grade. Let's say, for example, and this is a simple example, maybe not the best one, I wanted to earn an A, a 95% in your class. There's going to be 10 activities that are graded during that marking period. I get a 0 on the first one. There's no way I'm going to get a 95%. I would need to get 100 on everything else just to achieve a grade of a 90 for the year. And so the 0 really does significantly impact the grade. If we move all the students, change their grades retroactively if they're below a 50 to a 50, it does give kids, particularly in our semester classes, an opportunity to pass. A student still needs to earn the minimum of a 70% in the second marking period to pass the first marking period, but it does give kids an opportunity to pass for the year. Now, 50% is still failing. If I earn a 50% in the first marking period and a 50% in the second marking period, I'm still going to be at a 50%. Providing a basement grade or a floor grade of a 50 still requires student effort. You need to do something in order to get something. In order to get that passing grade, I need to do the work and engage in the learning to get that passing grade. This is entirely different than last spring when we said you need to do one thing to get a lot. If you did one activity in the spring, it might have been an activity that took you 5 minutes and you get 100%, you got an A+ for the last marking period. That's not what we're doing. We're just putting kids in a place where they have a greater opportunity to be successful. They'll still need to engage in their learning at a higher level than they've been doing already in order to pass for the semester or for the year. What are other schools in Chester County doing? I'll be the first to tell you, I can't speak for every school, but the schools in southern Chester County are definitely using a basement grade of a 50%. I was recently at an IU meeting with representatives from other districts around the county, and we were the only district who had not even considered a basement grade. I'll be the first to tell you that's not something I had even thought about or considered over the summer. This is a solution that's intended for this school year only. I know with mastery grading, there's been conversations of this. Rick Wormley years ago, probably about a dozen years ago, started talking about a minimum grade of a 50. The purpose of providing the minimum grade, a floor or a basement grade of a 50 for each marking period this year will be to put kids in a position where they have an opportunity to be successful. So that will require no action on your behalf as of right now. We're working with Wendy Philla through Power School to have the grade for the first marking period changed to a 50, and then we'll be doing the same process or a similar process for the second marking period. There's more to come on that. The second piece, so the first piece was establishing a basement or a floor grade of a 50. The second would be to allow students to turn in any makeup work or late work. We talked about this a lot of different ways. Should we do it for the first marking period? Should we do it for all of the second marking period? There are so many different approaches to late work, so many different philosophies, that to make an overarching single philosophy for the past would not be fair to students, and it definitely would not be fair to you. So beginning on Monday, January 4th, for the remainder of the second marking period, students will have an opportunity to turn in any makeup work or any late work up through the end of the marking period to receive full credit. I know that might be different than what you've been doing so far, but that is what we will put in place as a school beginning on January 4th. So that doesn't include any work that was turned in starting on December 23rd, which I know is tomorrow, or back or previous to that. It's only for work that was assigned and needed to be turned in beginning on January 4th and moving forward. We'll have a similar guideline in place for the third marking period and the fourth marking period, but we'll put specific timelines on that. For example, the second marking period, we have 3 weeks left. The third marking period is obviously 9 weeks long. We might break the first half of that into a timeline. So during that specific timeline, kids will have an opportunity to turn in work. But after we reach the midway point, then we'll start worrying about the second half of the marking period. So we'll break it into 2 distinct periods where students can turn in late work. This will also prevent students from turning in a marking period of work at the end of the marking period to be graded. So number 1, we'll establish that basement grade of a 50%. Number 2, for the rest of the second marking period, we'll allow students to turn in makeup work or late work for full credit. Obviously, if I turn in work to you and I got a 75% or an 8 out of 10 on that work, that's the grade I would earn. They won't earn credit as if they got the entire thing right, but they will earn the points that they deserve on that assignment, project, activity, whatever. And third, and the simplest one, I think you guys have heard about this a little bit, we had a schedule put together, we have a schedule put together for when we go hybrid on Wednesday, January 27th. And essentially what that does is it shifts our office hour period and adds time to the middle of the day. So our first class starts at 7:30. Students will have a half hour for lunch and 35 minutes for homeroom. So that'll allow a greater time in the middle of the day for kids to access support from you, for you to do makeup work with them, however you want to use that time. Based on feedback that we received from a lot of you is, well, let's be honest, what 17-year-old is up at 7:30 in the morning if they don't have to be? This will provide greater access to you and you greater access to them in order to make up work or make up tests, do whatever you need to do during that time. I recognize these are three really, really big pieces. And again, as I said at the beginning, the timing in sharing this with you is not great. This year, it really hasn't allowed for great timing on a lot of things. So I appreciate your listening to this information. There's a couple steps that we're going to take moving forward. Number one, this is a team approach. It's not a problem that you need to solve. It's not a problem that a kid or a family or an administrator needs to solve. It's a we problem. This issue of a pandemic wasn't created by us, nor are we solving it. However, by working together, we'll be able to get kids into a better position to experience success. We are now putting together points of contact for each student who's failing 2 or more classes. What I mean by that is, if you're on a list of students failing 2 or more classes, I will be assigned a number of students, for example, that I'll be working with the teachers of that student and the caregivers of that student in order to put a support plan in place to ideally get that student to a place where they are achieving success. As part of this, we're going to track their student progress on a regular basis to determine what kids need support that aren't getting it now and what kids need less support than they're actually receiving. We will discuss this portion in specifically of the plan on January 6th during our faculty workshop. So again, we'll put those 3 pieces in place. The kids who are really struggling the most, we'll have a team approach to working with them, points of contact who will not be classroom teachers. You guys are responsible for working with the kids and supporting them in your class, so we can take a team approach to helping these kids be more successful. I know that was a lot for the day before the break. Again, I'm sorry for that. We wanted to get this information to you. If we waited for a perfect time, I don't think that would come. So again, thank you for taking in this information, taking the time to watch the video. Thanks for your time and attention during this first part of the year, and enjoy your break. We'll continue to get back at it when we return on January 4th. Have a nice afternoon.